Charles King lived like a man of routine until the night a single gunshot exposed a life of hidden crimes, missing millions, and a vanishing act that left investigators chasing shadows across state lines. Charles King's life looked ordinary from the outside, but quiet neighborhoods can hide the darkest stories. Riverton, a small city surrounded by pine forests and gray rivers, awoke one icy November morning to flashing lights and sirens. Police tape fluttered in the wind outside a modest brick house at the end of Alder Street. Neighbors whispered from behind curtains as investigators moved in and out, carrying cameras and evidence bags. By midday, the name on everyone's lips was Charles King, a 34-year-old local accountant known for his calm demeanor and predictable routine. The first reports were chilling. Charles was nowhere to be seen. His car sat in the driveway, keys missing, phone left behind. To the police, it looked like a frantic exit. To neighbors, it made no sense at all. They remembered him as polite, almost reserved, the kind of man who mowed his lawn every Saturday and volunteered at the library on weekends. Detectives quickly uncovered details that unsettled the community. The unknown victim carried no identification, but his pockets held a set of worn leather gloves and a folded map of Riverton with Alder Street marked in red. The house showed no sign of forced entry, yet inside drawers were left open, and a trail of muddy footprints stretched from the back door to the living room. As morning turned to afternoon, rumors spread faster than the cold wind. Others claimed to have heard arguments coming from his house, though he lived alone. Police questioned neighbors, checked local surveillance cameras, and searched nearby woods, but no trace of Charles appeared. Investigators kept silent, yet their tense expressions hinted at something deeper. The single unanswered question hung heavy in the air. Who was the dead man, and why was Charles King, once the picture of an unremarkable life, suddenly at the center of a violent mystery? Detectives began piecing together Charles King's life in the hope of finding a pattern that might explain the night's violence. His home revealed subtle signs of a double existence. In the back of a locked closet, officers discovered a small metal safe tucked beneath old winter coats. Inside were neatly stacked envelopes of cash, foreign coins, and a single photograph of Charles standing beside a stranger whose face had been scratched out. Investigators traced his finances next, expecting the quiet accountant to have spotless records. Instead, they found irregular bank transfers over the past 6 months, large sums deposited and withdrawn in a pattern that looked deliberate but had no obvious source. One transfer led to a storage unit on the outskirts of Riverton. When police forced the padlock, they uncovered stacks of weathered files, each filled with property deeds, false identification cards, and photographs of people from across the state. Every folder was carefully labeled with dates and handwritten notes in Charles's neat script. The autopsy of the unidentified victim added another layer of intrigue. The man was in his late 40s, carrying scars from old injuries and a faint tattoo of a serpent coiled around a dagger on his left arm. Fingerprint scans revealed nothing. He seemed to have no legal record, yet fibers from Charles's living room carpet were found on the man's jacket, proving he had been inside the house before his death. Ballistic analysis confirmed the bullet came from a handgun, but no weapon was recovered. Some insisted they had spotted Charles in distant neighborhoods at odd hours, moving quickly as if trying not to be recognized. Late in the week, a breakthrough arrived in the form of a decades-old missing person report from another state. The scratched-out stranger in Charles's hidden photograph bore a striking resemblance to a man who vanished 15 years earlier while under investigation for financial crimes. The connection was tenuous, but it suggested Charles might have known the victim far longer than anyone imagined. Detectives began to suspect that the quiet accountant's life was built on layers of deception, and that the shooting in Riverton was only the surface of a story reaching far beyond their small town. As investigators dug deeper, they followed a trail that stretched beyond Riverton's borders. Records from the storage unit revealed that Charles King had rented another property under an alias in a neighboring county. The small cabin, hidden among thick cedar trees, looked abandoned at first glance, but a careful search exposed a concealed compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside lay a weatherproof case containing a dismantled handgun, matching the caliber of the bullet retrieved from the unidentified victim. Next to it rested a worn leather journal, its pages filled with cryptic notes, dates, initials, and coded numbers that hinted at secret transactions. Forensic experts matched Charles's fingerprints to the weapon parts, confirming his direct link to the shooting. Yet the journal suggested a broader web of connections. Certain entries referred to meetings with someone labeled only as R, accompanied by references to offshore accounts and settling old debts. Investigators theorized that the unknown victim might be this mysterious associate, but no definitive evidence emerged. The absence of Charles himself remained the most troubling gap. Meanwhile, financial analysts uncovered a pattern of property acquisitions across multiple states, all under various shell companies. These holdings were quietly sold or transferred over the past year, funneling millions into accounts that were now empty. It appeared that Charles had been preparing for a significant move, liquidating assets and covering his trail. The question became whether the shooting was a desperate attempt to silence a partner or a confrontation that spiraled out of control. The media frenzy intensified. National outlets descended on Riverton, broadcasting theories ranging from organized crime to espionage. Old acquaintances came forward with recollections of Charles's peculiar habits, his reluctance to share personal history, his sudden trips without explanation, his almost obsessive attention to financial detail. Each revelation painted a picture of a man who had lived among them for years while carefully concealing a second life. Then came an unexpected turn. Surveillance footage from a gas station 50 miles away captured a man resembling Charles 2 days after the shooting. He was wearing a dark hooded jacket and paying in cash, his face partially hidden but unmistakable to those who knew him. Investigators rushed to the location, but he had vanished before they arrived. The sighting confirmed he was alive and moving with purpose. But it also raised a chilling possibility. Charles King was not merely fleeing justice, he might be executing a plan long in the making, one that authorities still struggled to understand. The search for Charles King widened as law enforcement agencies from multiple states joined forces. A task force analyzed every fragment of his movements, yet Charles seemed always a step ahead. Investigators focused on the journal recovered from the hidden cabin, attempting to decode its numbers and initials. Linguistic experts noticed a pattern resembling coordinates, which led teams to several remote locations. One site, a dilapidated warehouse near an abandoned railway, revealed stacks of sealed boxes filled with counterfeit passports, high-end electronics, and bundles of unmarked currency. Each box bore fingerprints from both Charles and the unidentified victim, confirming a long-standing partnership. This discovery shifted the investigation from a single homicide to a sprawling criminal enterprise. It appeared Charles and his associate had orchestrated a network dealing in stolen identities and illegal financial schemes. The scale was staggering, implicating contacts across borders and leaving authorities scrambling to map the reach of their operation. Yet the motive for the fatal encounter remained elusive. Had the partners clashed over profits? Or had one tried to escape the criminal life, prompting a violent end? While federal agents scoured records, an unexpected lead surfaced from a remote fishing town 300 miles away. A local reported a stranger renting a small boat late at night, paying in cash and leaving before dawn. The description matched Charles's build and demeanor. Coast Guard patrols scoured the surrounding waters, but no trace was found. It was as if he had slipped into the vast coastal fog, leaving nothing but speculation behind. Back in Riverton, townspeople struggled to reconcile the quiet accountant they once greeted at the grocery store with the mastermind described in headlines. Old neighbors spoke of a man who waved politely and shoveled snow from the elderly woman's driveway, never hinting at a life of deception. The contrast deepened the mystery and drew even more media attention, turning the once sleepy community into a constant backdrop for live broadcasts and investigative podcasts. Amid the pressure, detectives uncovered one more piece of evidence inside the cabin, a prepaid cell phone hidden within the chimney flue. Forensic technicians recovered fragments of messages, each referencing a final rendezvous with someone known only as A. The messages stopped abruptly the night of the shooting. Investigators now faced the chilling realization that Charles might not be acting alone, and that an unknown accomplice, someone still in the shadows, could be guiding his escape or plotting the next move. Weeks turned into months as the manhunt for Charles King dragged on, yet each lead only deepened the mystery. Federal agents traced the journal's remaining coordinates to a mountainous region near the state border, where a weather-beaten cabin stood hidden among towering pines. Inside, investigators found an array of forged travel documents, satellite phones, and a burned pile of papers whose ashes still held the faint outline of financial statements. The discovery confirmed that Charles had meticulously prepared for a disappearance that could outlast even the most determined search. The unidentified victim was eventually matched to a long-missing financial broker named Richard Hale, a man once suspected of laundering millions for international crime syndicates. Old records showed that Hale and Charles had crossed paths a decade earlier during a corporate audit. That connection transformed the case. Authorities now believe the shooting was the culmination of a long and calculated rivalry. Some theorized Charles uncovered Hale's illegal dealings and sought leverage. Others suggested the two collaborated for years until a dispute over money or trust turned lethal. Despite the revelations, Charles himself remained invisible. Occasional sightings from a remote truck stop to a quiet European village surfaced but evaporated under scrutiny. Each tip seemed to echo his skill at creating illusions, using forged identities and a network of untraceable contacts to stay one step ahead. The prepaid phone found in the chimney yielded its final secret when specialists reconstructed a single deleted text. Everything ends where it began. Investigators interpreted the cryptic message as either a warning or a clue, but searches of Charles's childhood hometown produced nothing. Public fascination only grew. Documentaries, podcasts, and endless online theories turned Charles King into a figure of both fear and fascination. Was he a calculating criminal or a man pushed to extremes by betrayal? Did he kill to escape, or to silence a dangerous partner? With each unanswered question, his legend expanded. Ultimately, the case reached an uneasy standstill. Officially, Charles King remains a fugitive wanted for murder, fraud, and international financial crimes. Unofficially, he is a ghost and accountant who mastered the art of vanishing. The house on Alder Street stands empty now, its windows boarded and yard overgrown, a quiet monument to a story that began with a single gunshot and ended with a man who might still be out there, watching, waiting, and carrying secrets that no investigation has yet been able to uncover.